Welcome back to Full-Time Yoga Teacher Podcast. My name is Reika and I am your host. Welcome if you're a new listener, and if you're a returning listener, welcome back. So Full-Time Yoga Teacher Podcast was created a year and a half ago because I wanted to ask questions to other full-time yoga teachers across the world about how they got to become where they are. Like, what was the transition from doing something else in their life before to becoming a full-time yoga teacher, and what was that transition like, and how do they sustain being a full-time yoga teacher? So those are the questions that I selfishly wanted to ask all the full-time yoga teachers, especially when I was new yoga teachers trying to figure out how to be a full-time yoga teacher. Now that I'm about a decade into being a full-time yoga teacher, I still wonder about these things. I want to know how other people are doing it, and I want to share that with the world. So that's why I created this podcast. And I also do a solo episode here and there, as well as mini episode series on specific topic, which is what we're doing right now. It's a solo episodes of 4 mini series debunking some of the yoga teaching myth that exists, or being a full-time yoga teacher's myth that exist. But before we get started on today's episode, I want to talk a little bit about upcoming offerings. So, number one, I have a workshop coming up for yoga teachers that is going to be taught by AJ. So this is part of my mentorship program for yoga teachers. Once a month we have workshop, and usually I invite a guest teacher to teach a special topic workshop, or I'll teach a special topic workshop myself. But this month, for July of 2025, I have AJ as a guest teacher coming to teach a workshop called Yoga Meets Physical Therapy, Teaching Yoga for Healthy Aging. AJ is a physical therapist and a yoga teacher, so they are able to bring in this amazing knowledge and also gap that may exist in terms of what yoga teacher knows about the body and anatomy and biomechanics. And AJ gets to kind of bring in the PT perspective, knowing what it's like to be a yoga teacher. So it's going to be a great workshop. If you already teach to aging population, or you want to teach aging population, this workshop is great. But I think all teachers can benefit from this because we are all aging and our students are aging. So why not learn and deepen our knowledge about becoming better yoga teachers for aging population? So the workshop, you're going to be able to take away some evidence-based tools to create your yoga classes to support healthy aging for your students. And what's also amazing about this workshop is that it's sliding scale. $10 to $60. You get to decide the amount you want to pay for this workshop. Anywhere between 10 and 60, you can decide. It's very generous of AJ to make this into such an financially accessible workshop and knowledge that yoga teachers who's interested in learning this topic can gain access to. This workshop is happening in person in Long Beach, California, but it's also going to be live streamed. So you can join via Zoom if you live in another part of the country, different time zone. And it'll also be recorded, so you can watch the recording if you cannot make it in real time. You can also receive 2 hours of Yoga Alliance approved continuing education hours by attending this workshop. So amazing workshop and opportunity for you to join. I will be there live in person, learning alongside you. And if you know me, I'll be asking a lot of questions to AJ, I'm sure, because I always have so many questions. So can't wait to learn with you in this workshop. The link to the workshop registration, and if you want to learn more about the workshop, the link will be in the show notes. So go check it out. Second announcement I have is I am teaching accessible yoga teacher training at Raw Yoga in Irvine, which is Orange County, Southern California. And this is happening over 2 Sundays. So August 10th and August 17th, Sundays from 2 to 6 p.m. So 4 hours on each Sunday, total of 8 hours of continuing education for yoga teachers who want to deepen their knowledge about how to make your teachings and classes more accessible. I teach this training every few years, so I hope you can make it and don't miss this chance because it may not happen for another year or two. You don't have to be part of 300-hour program for Raw Yoga to register and take this training. You can just register if you just want to deepen this knowledge. So I highly encourage you to come learn with me about accessible yoga. It's a topic that I love and I feel very passionate about. I teach a therapeutic accessible yoga class twice a week, and I have gained a lot of experience over the past years of teaching in this way, and I really want to share that with you. So come and join us. Accessible Yoga Teacher Training in Irvine, August 10th and 17th, 2 Sundays, 2 to 6 p.m. The link to the info as well as to register will be on the show notes. So you can find all the information there. Okay, let's get started on today's topic. So today's episode is the last of the 4-part mini-series of debunking myth that exists around being a full-time yoga teacher. On the first episode, I talked about how there's a myth that exists that teaching yoga is not a stressful job and that it's all about Zen and peace, which is not true. A lot of yoga teachers are stressed out. So we talked about that in the first episode. Second episode, we talk about the myth of being a yoga teacher is not a real job. And maybe some of you have gotten this kind of feedback or comments from your family or friends before. So we talked about that in episode 2. And episode 3 last week, we talked about how there's a myth that exists that you have to be flexible, fit, thin, and young to be a yoga teacher. So we talked about that in last week's episode. And this week, we are talking about the myth that exists that as a yoga teacher, we are expected to wear many hats or certain hats as a teacher. So it's very common, let's say, for some students to have expectation that your yoga teachers are your therapist, your best friend, your mother, your auntie, your therapist, your doctor, personal trainer, physical therapist, entertainer, or maybe even your spiritual guru. So these are some expectations that might be put on you unexpectedly from your students or other people who see you as a yoga teacher. And maybe not all of them at once, but maybe even like 1 or 2 of them. So I just want to say that we are not, and hopefully that can take some weight off of you as a yoga teacher. There's going to be students coming up to you after class asking for your advice or opinions on what to eat, how to lose weight, how to heal their injuries, or they might share their personal struggle and challenges that they're going through in their personal life. And it is not our job to be all of those things. We're not their doctors, we're not their therapists, we're not their personal trainer, nutritionist, we're not their guru, we're not their entertainer. So this is a bigger topic that I would love to actually teach a workshop on, or a short training on. This ethical boundaries that exist that we can uphold as a yoga teacher, because we don't have to be all of that. But a lot of time, I think as a yoga teacher, we feel like we have to have an answer when students come up to you and ask about what are some exercises they can do because they broke their pinky, or maybe what they should do in their relationship, or we are expected to do this Dharma talk in the beginning of the class to say something profound and spiritual every class that you teach, or they expect you to heal them, or they expect your class to be fun entertainment every class, or funny. Maybe they expect you to be a comedian to make them laugh and have a good time in class. And that is a lot of hats we have to wear as a yoga teacher. And we don't have to. We don't have to take those roles on. And sometimes it's not ethical to take those roles on. Like, for example, if you're not a doctor, you shouldn't give advice on certain things, right? So take that pressure off of you. It's not realistic for you to be all of those things to your students. But sometimes you can't help it. Students are going to come to you with these things or expect you to be these things, and it is our job as a yoga teacher to not to take that on. You can say, I don't know the answer to your questions. Maybe you can go ask your PT, or maybe have you spoken to your doctor about that, or do you have other support system that you can go to discuss these challenges that you're going through. You don't have to be all of that, and take that pressure off. And it's actually ethically and also professionally, it's better to kind of take that responsibility off of your plate and think about what is your role as a yoga teacher. And let's say if you teach a group vinyasa class at Lay Fitness, what is your role? Maybe to facilitate an asana class to your students, to teach physical practice of yoga. And it's okay if you don't have a spiritual Dharma talk every class. If you don't have something to say, it's better you don't say anything at all rather than force it or try to be someone else that you're not. And you don't have to heal everyone. You don't have to fix anyone. Your job is to facilitate a safe, as much as you can, a safe space that you can create for them to have their own experience and have their own practice. And it's not up to you to entertain them. It's not up to you that they are able to get up and do handstand. It's not up to you that they're going to leave their classroom happy. Even like it's you have to take that pressure off yourself, and it's not who you are to be this loud, charismatic, fun teacher. And some people are naturally that way, and maybe that's what they're really good at, being a yoga teacher, that it's fun and energetic and charismatic. But for example, I'm not like that at all, and if I try to force myself to be funny or entertaining or charismatic, it's just not going to come out authentically at all. So I would rather be who I am as a yoga teacher. You don't have to be somebody that you're not. Show up as who you are and know that you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to wear all the hats that maybe you feel like you're expected to wear as a yoga teacher. And the boundaries are important because it's okay to say, I don't have the answers. Maybe go speak to this person instead. Or that teacher specializes in prenatal. I don't know too much about prenatal, so I highly recommend go take that person's class. Like that can be a great way to set your boundary, and also recommend students to your colleagues' class. And I think that can help with that pressure that you might have. You have to fulfill that expectation that students put on you. You don't. And sometimes when you take on too much, you are going to get burned out, or maybe you might experience compassion fatigue, or you might feel depleted emotionally and energetically when you take on a role that is not you, or that you don't feel comfortable taking on. That's going to turn into resentment or regret or just depletion. So don't take on what you don't have to take on. It's okay to say no. And it's so important to create that healthy dynamic of, this is my role as a teacher and these are not my role. And when you have that, you can set your boundaries really clearly with your students or your bosses, your managers, or client that you work with. So maybe it's important for all of us to think about, what is your role as a yoga teacher? And your role could be different every class you teach, or every location you go teach, or every situation. And that could be different than the role that you have at home with your partner, or with your kids, or with your parents, or a role that you have at your full-time job if you have another job. The hats you wear is going to be different. And think about, what is your role as a yoga teacher that's showing up to teach at this location, and try not to take on what is not yours. And we can model a very healthy boundaries when we say we don't know the answers, or when we say, I don't feel qualified to answer that, or that's not my place to give you this advice. Why don't you speak to this person, or why don't you refer, I know a great therapist. Here's their business card. Or I know a great massage therapist, like go to her. Or this PT I trust, like go to this PT with your questions you had about your frozen shoulders. Like, we don't have to take on all of those things. So maybe having a great list of referrals that you can give out when people do come to you with certain things that you are not qualified to answer. But it's okay to also say, I don't know. And that's not my role to answer that. I don't feel qualified to answer that. And I think it's very important to stay grounded as a yoga teacher. Stay true to who you are. Try not to be somebody that you're not. And sometimes that can be hard when you feel like your students expect you to be someone else, or expect you to wear certain hats, but choose what hats you're wearing. That's your choice. Like, student can expect certain hats, but you don't have to wear it, you know? So it's up to you to create that boundary and feel strong and confident in how you answer things, how you stand, how you behave, how you show up as a yoga teacher. And knowing your value is important, and really trying to stay true to the ethical boundaries as a yoga teacher, and what role do you have to play in certain situation or certain classes that you're teaching. And having this clean boundaries and role that you define, that you show up as for different students or different locations or different client that you are seeing or working with, is going to, and that's having a healthy boundary. And that might feel difficult to draw that boundary in the beginning, but once you practice drawing a clear boundary with your students or with anybody you work with or your bosses, then it's done. You have drawn the boundary. So you have set yourself up for success for years to come with that relationship. And I think it's so important to draw that boundary in the very, very beginning, not to make it very sticky or unclear. But if the boundary is clear from the beginning, that's going to set you up for like really clean, if I don't know if that's a word, but like clean and clear relationship and expectations with that relationship or partnership or collaboration that you have in the long term. And it might be difficult in the beginning, but just get it done in the beginning, and it's going to be much easier for the rest of your remaining relationship, collaboration, partnership you're going to have with whoever you're working with. I think it's so important to do it in the beginning and keep it clean, clear in the beginning. I hope this made sense. I hope this was helpful. Think about what is your role when you are caught in situations where people are putting certain hats on you, that people are expecting certain role from you. Just know that in the end, it's up to you what role you take on, and think about what is the role in this situation, and also like what are you qualified to take? What hats are you qualified to put on? Like if you're not a doctor, you can't put on a doctor's hat. If you're not a nutritionist or dietitian, you can't put on a nutritionist dietitian hat. So think about what are you qualified, what is your role in the situation, and how can you draw a healthy, clean, clear boundaries, especially from the beginning, so you're set up for success for the remainder of the continued relationship you're going to have with this person. So I hope this was helpful to you. That is it for this 4-part mini series on different myths that exist around yoga teacher or full-time yoga teacher. It can be applicable for both, whether you're a part-time teacher or full-time teacher. If you enjoyed this podcast, if you are enjoying listening to these mini series episode, please share the episode with your friends, your coworker, your yoga teachers, your colleagues. That would mean a lot to me. If you can leave a review or like or subscribe or stars or anything you can do on whatever platform you're listening to from would be super helpful. And information about the upcoming workshop with AJ and my upcoming training on accessible yoga teacher training will be on the show notes. Go check out the link if you're interested in that. But you can also message me and ask me questions or give me feedback or your thoughts on this week's podcast or this mini series that I just did in the past 4 weeks. I love to hear from listeners. So you can find me on Instagram at Reika Yoga, or you can message me through my website, www.reikayoga.com. Otherwise, I will speak to you next week, and have a great day. Bye.